printers, aka D-Print, for not to exceed amounts. These are 5-year not to exceed amounts. The reason we have gone out to 2 printers is we had 3 different formats of print items. Format A being wayfinding items, Format B being our larger format items, largely posted in shelters and buses, and Format C being our smaller brochures, folded maps, etc. So that was the recommendation, was to award these 2 contracts to get us all of our print collateral for the next 5 years.
Okay, any questions?
Move approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Rob, did you vote?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes. Number 4E, Amanda will now talk about outsourced marketing services.
So I will again go fairly quickly, so excuse me for being a little bit of a Gilmore Girls and speaking quickly. We are recommending the approval of a 2-year contract with 3 one-year options for 4 different vendors under our outsourced marketing services RFP that we just issued. One for Celtis Ventures for branding and creative services, one for Celtis Ventures for media planning and buying services, one for Inclusivity LLC for public outreach, and one for Jones Worley Design Inc. for customer experience. These are, again, not to exceed amounts for 5 years. These are all task order based contracts, so awarding these contracts is not spending this money. We will of course come back with any task orders that will exceed $100,000. So in the communications and marketing department, our 3 main objectives are to increase public awareness, community sentiment, and ridership, retain and inform existing riders about services and changes within PSTA, and generate new business with community partners, private businesses, and advertisers to increase our non-tax revenues. I talked a little bit last month about this tripod approach to public awareness, the first leg of that tripod being communications, PR, and earned media, which we discussed last month with Catalyst Communications. Today we're talking about these other 2 legs, that boots on the ground passenger outreach and our marketing and advertising, our paid media and our organic reach on digital platforms. Those of you who are in the business world have probably heard of this 7x7 rule, the idea that a message must be received at least 7 times in 7 different ways to get your target audience to act on that message and remember it, to really hear it. So that's the goal of the communications and marketing department. For our current priorities that we are working on is to expand that revenue from partnerships and advertising. We have heard that loud and clear, as well as to increase our fare box recovery by increasing ridership, especially among riders who pay full fares. That includes the implementation of our connected community bus network and our promotion of our new services, including Spark, Grouper, and the passenger ferries that we just discussed, Clearwater Ferry and the potential Cross Bay Ferry. Why did we go with 4 contracts? In the past, we've only had 1 marketing services contract. We decided to take a different approach with this RFP. Many of these firms have specialties, things that they are very good at, and we invited them to bid specifically only on those specializations. This helps bolster PSTA's in-house capabilities. We only pay for the work that we need, rather than asking one firm to be all things to all people and paying the price for it. We're only paying for the work we need from the specialist who is best suited to do that work in a cost-effective manner. Those specializations, just again, high level, brand and creative services is kind of our lead agency, helping position PSTA's overall brand and individual services and programs for success. Our media planning and buying is paid advertising across print, digital, television, radio, all of those good things to reach potential riders while they're considering their options for travel. You'll notice in your action item that both of these items are getting awarded to the same firm. That also helps create some cost efficiencies because they can traffic that creative internally directly to their ad buying team rather than having to collaborate with another third party. We are also awarding a contract in public outreach to help engage in direct conversation with community organizations and the public through events and meetings. Our public outreach team here at PSTA is 3 individuals. For comparison, JTA, who has fewer passenger trips than us annually, has a in-house public engagement team of 12. So we are very lean on our public outreach side, so being able to tap a third party when we have those needs is gonna be very helpful. And last but not least, our customer experience. This is a firm that is designed and designated to help make the experience of riding PSTA simple and enjoyable, help retain our existing riders and turn them into our brand advocates. This firm will help us with maps, signage, wayfinding, timetables, all of those transit-specific deliverables that you'll see on the buses and on PSTA property at shelters to help people get where they need to go. So once again, action item up on the screen for your consideration. The recommendation is for a 2-year contract with 3 one-year options for each of these specializations. These amounts are not to exceed amounts over the course of 5 years and will be task order based, so only spending the money that we actually need to spend. And with that, I'll take any questions.
No questions? Do I have a
I got
motion?
one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So this is a quick one. If you combine these costs, of these contracts, how does that compare to the previous agreement that we had in place?
That is a good question. Al is gonna pull those numbers for us now.
Give me 1 second, Commissioner Walker.
Commissioner Walker, I think it, if my math is correct, I think it's about the same. Again, these are not to exceed over 5 years. And so what really matters is when it matters when we actually spend money with a task order. And I know we're trying to kind of reduce that amount in our budget. But I think
We based these numbers on our budgeted amount in the marketing and communications division. We just allocated it across the 4 rather than to 1.
The amount that we, Commissioner Walker, the amount that the current contract with Jones Worley was $1,600,000 over the course of 5 years. However, some items that are listed as specializations were not part of her original, or part of her contract. So, hopefully I answered the question. Our current contract value is 1.6. However, all the disciplines that Amanda has up on the screen right now were not included in her contract.
You know, that's fair. Saying since these are basically task order based, not to exceed, it just boils down to just proper management of contracts. So I'm
Roger that.
I'm in favor of it.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion?
move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. 4F, tire lease contract. Henry, PSTA Director of Maintenance, will walk us through the lease tire.
Good morning.
morning.
So fleets of our size and certainly the amount of miles that we accumulate per year, more or less as a standard operating practice, lease our tires. PSTA has been leasing tires for probably 2 decades at this point. Why? Simply because it is more cost effective to lease the tire than it is to own the tire, inventory management, and of course, it streamlines the inventory approach that we have. So before you is an action item to approve a 3-year contract with 2 one-year options to Goodyear Tire and Rubber for the tire lease for a total not to exceed of $3.2 million, and of course to authorize the CEO to exercise those 2 one-year options. Al will walk you through the IFB that was issued. Goodyear is currently the incumbent now. We generally put this out every 5 years, and the current contract is going to be expiring in the next 45 to 60 days.
Thank you, Henry. Madam Chair, committee members, very briefly, we released an RFP in mid-March. And at the end of April, we received bids from Goodyear, the incumbent, Bridgestone, and a company named Tuda out of New Jersey. After reviewing the bids, Goodyear, the incumbent, they came in very, they came in at the lowest bid, out of all that were submitted. Part of the reason for that is because Goodyear is the incumbent, and they didn't have to have any, investment to start here all over again and bring tires in, et cetera. We did a responsibility check on Goodyear, and they're good fiscally, and from a responsibility perspective. The fiscal impact on this is funded by operating funds. And once again, the recommendation that Henry and I bring before you is recommend approval of a 3-year contract with 2 one-year options with the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company for a tire lease for a total contract amount not to exceed $3,200,000 and authorize the CEO to exercise the 2 one-year options. If there are any questions, Henry and I would be more than happy to answer them.
I move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank
you. 4G.
Yes.
Duke indemnity agreement and easement agreement. Liz Fazio, project manager, is here to go over agreements for the undergrounding of the Duke power lines for the Clearwater Station.
Good morning, Chair and committee members. I'm Elizabeth Muscat Fazio, project manager here at PSTA, working on the Clearwater Station project. I'm here today to present to you an easement agreement and an indemnity agreement with Duke Energy for the undergrounding of the power lines. This stems both of these agreements stem from an interlocal agreement we currently have with the city of Clearwater to underground the power lines. And the interlocal agreement has already been approved by both the PSTA board and the City of Clearwater Council. So basically, we seek approval for an easement and indemnity agreement with Duke Energy to underground the power lines and install the equipment which will power the Clearwater Station. Easement area, which is indicated here in blue on the slide, will allow Duke to access the area to install, connect and maintain the power equipment and the power lines, which will power the Clearwater Station. The easement area itself is a 20-foot by 20-foot area that is centered over the switchgear, which is the yellow here on the slide. And then it also contains a 10-foot wide area, which is 5 foot extending on either side of the undergrounding equipment, so Duke can access the area. The indemnity agreement, it has been thoroughly reviewed by PSTA Legal and our risk team, and it will protect PSTA from liability. Recommendation again is to approve the agreement, the easement and indemnity agreement with Duke for the undergrounding of the power line equipment and the placement of the equipment for our Clearwater Station site.
Any questions?
Move approval. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And 4H, Clearwater Station Contract Amendment. Our last action is a contract amendment with CDM Smith for design services during the construction of the Clearwater Station. BJ Gavin, interim director of procurement, I was reading back through there, is a contract amendment. Okay, great, anxious to hear about that, what is that?
So this is the #1 capital project currently underway at PSTA, Clearwater Station. This is a contract amendment for design services. The recommendation here is for approval of an amendment to the design services contract for Clearwater Station with CDM Smith and then issue a task order for a not to exceed value of $1.5 million for a new contract value of not to exceed $4.9 million in order to complete phase 3 post-design services. So I'm BJ Gavin, Director of Project Management Office here at PSTA. I'm gonna share with you just a little bit of history, the update of where we are currently, and then we'll come back to the action for today. So here you see a map of Park Street Terminal and Clearwater Station. Our new Clearwater Station is about 1,000 feet from Park Street Terminal. It's a shade under 2 acres. And this was made possible by the city of Clearwater with a land exchange in 2024. So here is what phase 1 and phase 2 has gotten us to. They're much deeper plans than this, but this is a good overview. And you can see main access from Southeast Avenue and Franklin Street here up on the top left corner. That's where most of the folks are going to be coming in from that are going to be boarding and our buses as well as getting off into the community. Then we've got our additional passenger amenities. This is at the indoor waiting area up top there that will be air conditioned for passengers. And we also have a small retail space that we are looking for a vendor to fill. And so there will be a procurement that goes out for that. Maybe it's a coffee shop, a grab and go. So we also will have that retail space on the property. This is also going to be across the street from City of Clearwater's City Hall. That's already under construction, so on the north side, the top of this picture, which you can't see, we will have that to border our facility. And then we also have a public art requirement. So this was voted on 2 months ago by the board and accepted for the key corner, and that's a development requirement from the city of Clearwater. So that brings us to design phase 3 post-design services. So as included in your board packet, we told you back in December of 2022 that we would be back to the board for phase 3 post-design services. We are fulfilling that today. We are back here with you all. This was anticipated. This was budgeted for. This is the engineering and architectural support that's required when we go into construction. So answering contractor questions and RFIs. So those requests for information can go back from the contractor to the engineer or the architect. That would be supported under this contract. Review of materials and submittals. So any kind of shop drawings that are going to support the material that's coming on site would be reviewed by the engineer and architect, make sure they agree with that. Attend construction meetings. Even though they've completed the design, we still need their support in these construction meetings. This is a typical part of construction. And then provide design clarifications. This is a little less formal, but this would still be included under that PO and that contract amendment. So here's the timeline we're looking at here. We are so close to design completion. That's why we're here today. So early summer 2025. Project construction contract award. Now I have 45 million up there. That's an approximation. We won't know until that procurement goes out and then comes back to us. That'll be midsummer 2025. We'll see you again for that because it has a future board action. And then begin construction late 2025 and propose operation in 2027. So we come back to the recommend approval, and I do just want to highlight this was anticipated, this was budgeted, and we told you that we were going to be back, and we are back. So recommend approval of an amendment to the design services contract for Clearwater Station with CDM Smith. Issue a task work order for a not to exceed amount of 1.5 million for a new contract value not to exceed $4,935,000 in order to complete phase 3 post-design services. What questions can I answer?
No questions? No motion?
Move approval. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Madam Vice Chair, the rest of the items on your agenda are informational items. They're in your packet. Sorry, Devin, you can look at Devin's beautiful PowerPoint in there at your leisure.
Okay.
We concluded all the action items for the meeting. if you'd like to go through them, that's fine
Are
too.
you
Well,
suggesting-
I'd like to hear, are you saying skip these things?
You can, it's up to you.
Well, I would like to hear the ridership report from Devin.
I'd like to hear that too.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
thank you.
You're so popular now.
In like 10 minutes.
The short version.
Yeah,
Good morning, Finance
good
Committee.
morning, thank you, Devin.
Yes, of course. My name is Devin Dio, Planning and Data Analyst Manager, and I'm gonna be talking about our ridership in general, but also the new services that we launched in the summer starting in January this year. So this is our system total passenger trips, our total ridership over the last 3 fiscal years. You see fiscal year '25 in red, fiscal year '24 in green, fiscal year '23 in blue. You can see we peak typically every year in March. Fiscal year '24 was the first time that we crossed 1 million rides in March since COVID, actually. And we didn't quite reach that total this year. We had 991,000 rides in March versus 1,004,000 in March in fiscal year '24. We did see a pretty big drop in ridership on the Suncoast Beach Trolley. We lost about 30,000 rides. We believe that's due to impacts from the hurricanes. We saw beach ridership on a few of the Summerner stops did decrease. Jolly Trolley, our contracted partner, also saw some decreased ridership on the beaches. So we still feel pretty good about nearly hitting 1 million rides in March, even with that kind of loss of those major tourist services that tend to boost our ridership during spring break. To get specifically into the Sunrunner, you again see fiscal year '25 in red, fiscal year '24 in green. We are lagging slightly behind our fiscal year '24 ridership. We were about 3,000 lower in March this year. But again, we lost most of that ridership on the beaches due to hurricane impacts. And then Tropicana Field also, we stopped playing baseball games there. And we have a station that got pretty significant ridership, especially during game days on Tropicana Field. So we did lose about 3,000 rides versus March last year, but we're still feeling pretty good with the service that we put out there and how we've responded to those hurricane impacts and the loss of that major ridership generator with the Rays. So one of the services that we launched in the Sunrunner, our marketing team in partnership with the City of St. Pete. The City of St. Pete partnered with us and paid us to fund extra service on Friday nights and Saturday nights on the Sunrunner. And that has been an immediate success for ridership. So on this graph, you see Monday to Thursday is this blue line here, the average daily boardings per hour. Friday is the orange line. Saturday is the green line, and Sunday, our lowest ridership day type on the Sunrunner is the pink line. What you see with the Sunrunner isn't really typical for most of our system. We see higher Friday and Saturday ridership on the Sunrunner. Most of our systems peak during the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever they're people who may be working from home or taking those in-person shifts, who have a hybrid schedule, things like that. Most of our routes see like a Monday to Thursday peak. Sunrunner has the highest ridership days on Fridays and Saturdays. And we know that additional late night frequency is a success because if you look right here, past 7 p.m. going into 8, these 4 hours of ridership right here for Fridays and Saturdays, we've seen an over 50% jump in ridership between 8 p.m. and midnight since we increased that frequency to 15 minutes from 30 on Fridays and Saturday nights. We also launched a new station at the pier, and we talked a lot about the ferry service. This new station at the pier at First and First will provide an even better connection from the Sunrunner to the pier. And this new station has been an immediate success. This First Ave North and First Street station right here, we have 4,078 riders get on at that station in downtown St. Petersburg in March this year. It has been in operation for a little over 2 months, and it is our 7th highest ridership station on the Sunrunner. I know I also mentioned that we have seen a decrease in beach ridership on the Sunrunner. That doesn't mean beach ridership, however, is low. You see St. Pete Beach Access right here is our 3rd highest ridership station. We dropped 5,500 riders off just at that County Beach Access alone in March. You also see right down here, Gulf Boulevard and 55th Avenue. That is our Tradewinds station. 3,300 riders boarding at Tradewinds. You see 75th Ave and Boca Ciega in St. Pete Beach. 4,500 riders boarded heading towards downtown St. Petersburg from the beach. So I just want to make sure that the context is still there when I say we've seen a decrease in beach ridership. It is still very high on the Sunrunner. And so what you see here, I wanted to really illustrate how ridership has changed from March to March, because I said we've lost some beach rides in the Tropicana field. But you can see that. This graph, there is a green arrow or a red arrow on the stops based on whether boardings went up or down from March 2024 versus March 2025. You can see on the north section of the First Avenues, these are the stops typically where riders would board heading to the beach. You can see that ridership is down from March at all of these stops heading to the beach and at the beach stations. However, what we have seen is a large uptick in ridership in downtown St. Petersburg and heading to downtown St. Petersburg. Boarding on First Avenue South, that one-way street takes you into downtown St. Petersburg. And we have seen a ridership increase at every station from 58th all the way to 8th Street, except that Tropicana field, where the Rays aren't playing anymore. This star right here shows you our new station in downtown St. Petersburg with those 4,500 boardings. And you see ridership did go down at these 3 stations right here downtown. However, most of those were taken up by the First Street North, and there's actually additional ridership downtown since we've opened that station. So ridership is a little down on the Sunrunner. Again, several reasons for that. And our new services, we do feel like they have been a strong success. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
How does this compare with the projections given for the grant?
I don't have the projections off the top of my head. I'm not exactly sure. Do you have those numbers?
I think it was 4,000 a day.
4,000. Okay. That's, I believe you're talking about the Small Starts grant application. Yeah, so we are lower than the 4,000 a day if those were the initial projections.
What are we a day?
Our highest ridership days, Saturdays and Fridays, were at about 2,900. When we were fare free, the first year of operation, we were around 3,400 rides a day. And we've also had some conversations with the FTA, and they recognize that those projections made pre-COVID, I think we've presented a few times, there's been real national changes in trends in transit ridership since COVID. And they also know that those pre-COVID projections, it's kind of muddy to try to extrapolate that data and compare with how much the trends have changed. Yes, ma'am.
Maybe I missed this just now when you were presenting this. On the new stop, then you see all the stops around it have dropped.
Yes.
Is that because they are going to the new stop?
Yeah, part of it is, so typically riders who are going into downtown, I know when I ride the Sunrunner, I would get off at this 1st and 5th Street station because it turns and takes that loop and it's, 8 or 9 minutes before it gets back up
Right.
here. So if you're a rider who's going to a location around here, you might have previously gotten off at this 1st and 5th stop like I did, but now this stop is closer. So we have riders who, this stop, one, it makes their trip easier, so they're using it now, but also we have more ridership where maybe people wanted to get to the pier on the Sunrunner, but it was over half a mile walk from all of our other stations. Now we have a closer station. We feel like we're tapping into that demand that was already there that we heard from our riders.
That Fifth Street South stop also was
Oh, yeah.
missed by the big huge crane that fell by like 10 feet. And so it was open in March, but I don't know if maybe that had something to do with
Oh, it
also-
was closed during that
It
time?
was fenced up.
For around 3 months,
It was closed
yes,
after the
ma'am.
hurricane, but it was open in
We opened it in January. It was closed after Hurricane Milton, that crane from
Okay.
downtown. Yes, ma'am. We were closed through
So
December.
that would not be reflective of this current
Yeah,
stop?
unless maybe there was just the Tampa Bay Times and everything moved out of that building right there for now.
It's still difficult to get there. There's still scaffolding and we dropped off there with a delegation from the city of Lakeland this last week who was looking at Sunrunner. And it's still, the sidewalk's cut off on one full side, so there's access to the station, but that might have changed the habits of some of the ridership.
And then we have seen, the thing that I was most excited about this was it seems like maybe there's students, so this takes a little while, but the USF St. Pete students have discovered Sunrunner seemingly a little bit recently. The ridership has really grown at that USF stop amongst students using it.
Is that a UPass?
They have a UPass agreement where they pay us.
I was gonna ask if there's a motion.
No motion.
You have a motion,
I'll give you
Matt?
one,
Motion to receive it.
All right, well, thank you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you guys.
Thank you very much. Okay, anyone wanna continue through the agenda, or you wanna
I'm good.
have an
I do have a
adjournment?
question for Brad though.
Okay, go ahead.
Will the budget, when you all, when the staff finishes this proposed budget, will it be coming to the finance committee as an action item to recommend to the board acceptance or not acceptance? Is the finance committee gonna play any role in the budgeting process at all?
Yes.
And when does this happen? Cause I've been like,
So we have the budget workshop on May 30th, Friday, May 30th. And then at the June Finance Committee, we might combine it with the planning again, not sure. You'll get the draft budget.
the draft,
Yeah, next one.
okay.
The draft budget, it's gonna be balanced somehow.
Mhm.
And then there will be no vote in June though, because then it'll be presented as draft to the full board in June.
So we, as a board, as a finance committee, we won't make recommendations on.
In August, we've had the finance committee make a recommendation up or down on, but right before the board votes at its meetings in September.
Mhm,
But
okay.
that's kinda late.
Yeah, it's kinda late, so.
Well, you could vote in July,
No, I don't mean to vote, I mean, it's late to have any input.
Yeah,
we'll present it in June, you can have input then. We're gonna be talking about the budget and the trim notice and everything on the tax levy in July. And then we've got August, usually we have the capital plan separately voted on then.
mhm.
And then we're required by law to have the night
So we're gonna
public
get more
hearing.
details sooner or later in this committee,
Oh, yeah.
because like putting little stickers on the wall and
Well, we're gonna have one more sticker on the
I like to dig into stuff and I haven't had, I know you wanna meet, but I wanna meet with you too, I'm anxious to have a discussion with the finance
Right.
committee about budgeting and I'm anxious to have that discussion, so I wanna know when it's, well, I chose to be on the finance committee because I thought that's what we're gonna start doing, so. Anyway, just out there, I'd really like to start working on numbers whenever, so.
Great.
That was it, that's all I had.
I know. I'm thinking. I appreciate what you're saying. So, do we have any other questions or business? If we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll second that motion.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great job, Chair.
I can read fast if I
Great
like.
job.
Good job, is that your first time?